Hello, friends. Glad to spend a little bit of time with you today. Like to go do a little bit of programming. I'll go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. Okay, so first let's talk about what I want to work on. Um, this is the project I'd like to work on with you today. It is a programming assignment and it's loops. And what it says is write a program whose input is two integers, output the first integer, and subsequent increments of 5 as long as the value is less than or equal to the second integer. Cool. Um, well, I think I'll use Anaconda to get started with this. So this is my Anaconda environment. Notice it's running 5.2.2. If you're running 1.5, I would encourage you to come and make a new environment by clicking the create button. I just called mine Spider, and then you can go in and you can tell it to update to a specific version of Spider. And so like this one can run clear up to 5.3.3. But anyway, 5.2.2 should do it. So we'll go ahead and run that. There we go. But there's several cool ways that we could work through this problem. And I think there's a lot, yeah. Let's see. Oh, yep. Thanks for letting me know. I hope that was the right button to click. I'm going to do a new file, save as, and I'm going to put this into an example file. And so this machine has two hard drives. Um, got my email open in the other window, so I'm going to get that close, limit my distractions. There we go. Forgot how to get to the D drive on this. So this is my D drive. And inside that I've got my Git folder, and we've got this folder, SWASU CS Python examples. This is for our Computer Science 1 class, and we're in Chapter 5. So I'm going to call this one while loop count by 5. And I'm going to get rid of all this because we don't need it. And we're going to wrap this. We're going to make this look a little bit prettier, get rid of some things we don't necessarily need. Oh, well, that was cute. Write a program. Let's go ahead and start just kind of identifying these. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull these out. I'm just going to work through these one at a time. So the first one, it says is write a program whose input is two integers. Cool. So I'm going to say so it's not happy about something. Why are you not happy? Oh, probably because I can't spell. Right, there we go. And then we'll do the second one. And I'll say, all right. So Let's see. I'll do a formatted print to print this off. Okay, let's give that a shot. It says, let's do, from the example, -15 and 10. So you want to start at -15 and stop at or before -10. Cool. All right, so we've got that part done. And I'm just going to put all this block of code right underneath this part A. Now, this is where we're getting into something, and we can actually do all three of these steps at once. And I'm going to show you something that allows us to do this. So here's an if statement, and we've seen how those work. Then we've got a for statement. We've got the range function. And the range function right here, I've got an example I'll share with you on how to do it that way. Here's break and continue, pass, match, and then where is, all sorts of fun stuff. And then that rolls into functions. Okay, there's a different tool that I'm going to use, which is called a while loop. And so this is actually a section that comes earlier. Here's the for loop. Useful built-ins, while loops. This is it. This is the structure of the while. So while something is true, then we can do this. All right. So let's just grab this code right. Actually, it's a simple enough code. I'm not gonna grab it. I'm just gonna type it in. And so I'm going to say our number equals, and then we'll call it first number. And then while, and I'll say our number is less than or equal to, there we go. Backspace key and the equal sign are at the same spot, and I've mashed them both at the same time, and I had this cool effect where I did absolutely nothing. While our number is less than second number, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say print our number, and then a space, and then I'm going to do end equals nothing. Okay, so that, if I ran that right now, it should be a never-ending loop. And that's kind of a cool thing to see. So we're going to see that. Let's see, hit this Control S to save. The go button, -15, 10, and now, yay! And it just keeps on going and going and going. So several ways to stop this. Control C works on some terminal environments. If you're in an integrated development environment, they almost always have a little stop button. So anyway, you can see like it just coded my inputs full of stuff. So we need to have some stopping conditions. And actually, we don't really need to have stopping conditions. What we really need to have is after we print off our stuff, we need to increment it. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do our number is equal to our number plus 5. Okay, and so now we run this, and let's start with negative 15 and with 10. Ooh, look, now it's got a different problem. And basically what it's saying is these are supposed to be integers, not strings. And so I can just come in here and I'm going to recast those as integers, run it again, start with negative 15, go up to 10, and let's see. Yep, that does match. Now, we have something else that we're supposed to say. And so the other thing that we're supposed to say is if we get these two confused. Because if we ran this right now, I'll try that second stack of inputs. We'll do 20 and 5. It doesn't really complain about it. So we need to have this little comparison. Because we're going to need to deal with these as numbers before, I'm actually going to remove the recasting. It really doesn't matter to the program where I do the recasting. Just at a certain point, we need to get them stored as numbers. So I'll get those stored as numbers. I'll make this big in a little bit. Actually, I'll make it big for right now since we're moving things around here. There we got it. All right. And then we need to say something here. We need to say if, and this is from last week, second number is actually less than first number. So if our alligator is going to eat the smaller of the two, we've got a problem. Let me say print this little blurb. Okay. Now it's not happy about something. Ah, yes. We've got a single quotation here, and then it thinks it stops here, and that's a problem. So we'll just say, nope, we'll use the escape character, and we'll say, no, that really is just a quotation mark. We'll run this, and let's just test the old code with our old inputs. By the way, that always aggravates me when there's not a space at the end between the question mark and the inputs. So run it again. Cool, that looks a little bit prettier. Um, all right, I like all of that. Let's test the other one. Okay, now, couple of things that we're going to need to change so we can get this ready for Zy. Actually, we'll just let's just go drop this into Zybooks. I'll just copy our code. This code for if you're taking the class with me, what we have there is good enough. We're just going to go into Zybooks and we're going to test this. Okay, so we'll paste our, I've got that code somewhere else. So I'm going to paste over it. Let's just run the program. And we'll change it to the other, I think it was negative 15. Yeah, and 10. That's our other input. Run program. Now we need to tidy some things up. So we'll come in here. Zybooks doesn't like inputs. That's too much text for them to deal with their automatic testing. We're just going to get rid of this comment statement. And then to do something to, let's run it. Okay, so that looks like a match. And then let's try the other. Okay, so that looks pretty close. This is one of the things that I am challenged by Zybooks on. So we did almost everything horribly wrong. Your output had too many spaces in it, and we didn't have a carriage return. So we need to come up here. Let's get rid of the extra space and run it again. And now it's not enough space, I guess. See if I can undo that. I'll slow down and look a little more closely at it. So our output now has one space too much. Did I do two spaces in there, perhaps? Nope, just one. There we go. And now it doesn't have a carriage return. So we need to come in here after the while loop. So we go back an indentation level. And we add a carriage return. So old habit, always hitting Control S. And we see that it's happy now. Expected output of this other one, second integer can't be less. So it's got an extra carriage return that it doesn't want. So we need to come up here and we need to say end equals, don't go to the next line. Man, my fingers do it without me even thinking about the save. And now we see we've got 10 out of 10. And so I would call those minor formatting changes, but it really doesn't change that we can do with the while loop. Now I want to show you two other ways that you can do this code. Okay, so I'm going to come in here. This is looking pretty good. I don't think I've got command. Nope, it does not seem to recognize get commands here. So I am going to open up GitHub. If you ever need to change to a different drive, you just type the drive letter and a full colon. And we see our while loop count by 5. So that's the one I wanted to see. So sometimes, like I wasn't up to date with my server. I've done a lot of work on this recently. And so now that I'm up to date, I went and did a poll. I also did something called a fetch. We'll cover GitHub more and when we do the choose your own adventure game next time. And now I can do git push again. But while we're at it, I'm also going to do one more example. So I'm going to do, actually we'll do code and I'm going to call this think I've got this installed. Yeah, there we go. So I'm going to show you the book code. If you come down here to solution on the teacher edition, they'll let you do this. So they're still grabbing the two numbers just like we did. They've got the if statement like we did. And then in the else, they've got just a for loop. And that should work. So let's give that a shot. There's that great Disney classic where I think it's Hades is talking to one of his friends that he's working with, and that actually is running. So we'll run it. But anyway, in the Disney movie, he's like, "You're forgetting one eensy weensy little teensy weensy little detail. I own you." So anyway, that's a classic. Um, Run this again. This time we'll do 20 and 5, and we see that it's the same basic behavior. All right, so I want to show you something because I always think this is cool. Um, so in the book code, we see we've got reading into inputs. In ours, reading into inputs. The difference is I put text out there to ask me a question because literally between the time I write the program and run the program, I sometimes forget. And then I also print feedback because I like to know that the computer actually was listening. We've got an if statement, and notice how their if statement was number 2 and number 1. And this is why I encourage you to use longer, more descriptive variable names. Num1 and num2, maybe that works more efficiently, but for me, I don't remember which one I was saving first and the second. So anyway, also, don't we usually start counting with 0, not 1? That's a joke from another time. But essentially, an if statement with a print statement underneath it, that's the same thing that we did. Now, what we didn't do is we didn't do ours inside an else statement. They put theirs inside else statement because they needed this to protect the for loop from getting started. I didn't do that. That's probably a better way to do that. But we see we've got a for loop. And the way this one is going to read, it says for I in range num1, num2 plus 1 to 5. Okay, let's make sense of this. First of all, I is a horrible variable name. And let me show you why. You can do a control F for I, and we can see that there are 13 copies of that variable, when in reality, there's only 2 copies of that variable. And so the problem is it's too short and too common, and so it gets confused with other variables and other words. All right, but it's going to say for I in range from num1 to num2 plus 1 to 5. All right, so what this means is we start out at num1, so it prints this off as a string, not a number. That's how they get rid of the space. But then they come back and they add a space, and then they don't go to the next line. At the end of the loop, which is here at the end of line 9, line 10 is the outside of the loop because line 10 is indented back to where the for loop started. So whenever you go back to the left, that means that loop is over. What that means is we're going to increment by 5. So num1, which started out, let's say, is negative 15, gets 5 added to it. So now I becomes negative 10. And it does negative 10 and a space, doesn't go to the next line. And now we add 5 to it again, it becomes negative 5. And it checks, is negative 5 less than 10 plus 1? Yes, it is. And so we print negative 5, do the same thing, add 5, now it's 0. Is 0 less than negative 10 or less than 10? Yes, it is. So we run it again. And then we say, is 5 less than 10 plus 1? Yes, it is. And then we say, is 10 less than 10 plus 1? Yes, it is. And we print it. And then the next time we come back through, we say, okay, is 15 less than 10 plus 1? No, it is not. So we go to the next line, and that's when it's going to print off this result here. Okay, so a while loop, I think, in this case, felt a little bit cleaner for a first program. We're basically saying our number, while this condition is true, go do this code. And so instead of having this code, and this is a very common thing to do with a loop, is when you get to the loop, into the loop, then you do some sort of an incrementation. And that's actually in the for loop why they had that. So anyway, just wanted to show you that these two codes both do simply the same thing. So and so now we can come out here to TV land. Nope, this one. And we can look in Computer Science 1. And this is a public repository. So if you can see this video, you can find this code. Just go swasu or github.com/swasu. And then this one should be one of the repos that are listed. But we've got oh, no, I need to move that. Okay, we've got 3 different examples. This is the example that we just worked through. This is the book code. And then here's another one that I did just kind of for funsies. Again, we've got the 2 numbers that we're inputting. We've got the if statement. This time I did wrap it inside an else statement. And I said, all right, here's a variable for step size. And then I used this range function. I said, let's create a list based off of the range, starting number plus ending number, and we're going to increment the range by step size. And so range is just a way that you can like make a range of numbers and give a range of numbers. And if you want to put it into a list that you can work with later, you just recast it as a list, like you learned in chapter 3, and then you've got a list, and we called it our list. And so the way this for loop works, it just says for our item in our list. And so what this does is at one item at a time, it just says, okay, you've got a list of maybe like, I don't know, 5 numbers. Let's pop one out, and that's what our item is. And I've got an if statement there. If the ending number is greater than or equal to our item, then we'll go ahead and print it. And basically I did that to make sure that we didn't have any problems in case our list wasn't a perfect match for what we wanted to see. But anyway, for loops are fun, while loops are fun. There's lots of fun stuff you can find on the internet that explains a lot of how these things do. Some people like to get crazy with their for loops and try to make them as small as possible or as you know, interesting or intricate as possible. But you don't necessarily have to do that, right? The goal of code is to make it readable. You want the story to be read. And so if you're making it so small that it's unreadable, if you had fun with it, I'm glad you had fun. But in reality, I want you to focus more on readable and almost intuitive. Like you look at it and you're like, huh, that I don't even know why you had to write that down. That seems so simple. So that's the goal, friends. But it's one of those things. Some people make loops into a real art form, and I'm like, yay, art, because I'm a huge sponsor of the arts. But I'll also maintain that a lot of artists get better with practice. And so if you're very practiced at this and you want to show off your art form, by all means. But at the other end of the spectrum, if you're like me and it's like, I'm working on this today, and then I've got 1,000 other things I'm going to go do before I get to look at this again, I try to make mine very easy to remember, very easy to read. Thanks for your time. Have a wonderful day, and I look forward to working with you next time. Take care. Bye.